Hi, BookTube, it's Amy, and I'm back again reading from the Anatomy of Bibliomania by Holbrook Jackson. We're on page 293 in today's reading, with a section titled, The Claim That They Are Cure-Alls Discussed. Montesquieu had never known a pain or a distress that he could not soothe by half an hour of a good book. But to guarantee so much is Vonder fumos. Such promises end in smoke, and those enthusiasts who promise that books will cure all ills go too far. Better stop with Pliny, who ventured no farther than to say that there is no pain which literature cannot alleviate, for books are no cure-alls. Only the quacks and charlatans of the marketplace would say otherwise. To overstate the power of books is to do them harm, and to harm those who seek restoration and health by them. The longer I live, said Sidney Smith, the more I am convinced that the apothecary is of more importance than Seneca. I am not, however, unmindful of the fact that some few writers, by reason of the universality of their genius, may approximate to a universal remedy, like Shakespeare, who is a pharmacopoeia in himself. Some would allow as much for others as Richard Le Gallienne for Alexander Dumas, who comes nearest of all writers to being a literary cure-all. He is incomparably the most useful of all writers in nervous disease, but there is no form of sickness to which he may not be applied, and a set of Dumas, he advises, is as indispensable in a sick room as a nurse or pure air. For this reason, in all cases likely to be prolonged, the doctor should immediately prescribe Dumas, whatever subsequent treatment may be necessary. I have brought enough evidence to prove their efficacy in cases of ennui, megrims, melancholy, and the like, and am therefore the more emboldened to announce that even here they are not infallible. Books can do more than open the door of consolation, but if the ingredients of consolation are not within us, how shall we be consoled? The inconsolable are beyond their reach. No poppy, nor mandragora, nor all the drowsy syrups in the world shall ever medicine thee to that sweet sleep which thou owedst yesterday. Take as a type the case of de Estens, who sought to ease the morbid irritations of his ingrowing consciousness by associating with all manner of strange and beautiful objects, among them, as I show in its place, unique copies of fantastic books, fearfully and wonderfully comparisoned. He pondered over his treasures as an amateur or novice adventuring among the mysteries of an apothecary's hoard, but to no satisfying end, for content was always farther from him than it was from most of us. To change the current of his turbid emotions and cool his brain, he once tried a course of emollient reading, and reckoning the novels of Charles Dickens among the solaces, he resorted to them. Books of this kind, he argued, being appropriate to the delicate condition of the convalescent whom sensational stories or other works richer in phosphates might only fatigue, would be appropriate also in his condition. But his theory collapsed in practice. Dickens produced just the opposite effect. His lovers were too chaste, too modestly draped, too Protestant. Their seraphic passions, never going beyond a coy dropping of the eye, a blush, a tear of happiness, a squeezing of hands, exasperated him. The exaggerated virtue drove him to the other extreme. He rushed into contrary excesses of thought, set himself to imagine passionate, full-bodied lovers, frailties, ardent embraces, etc. So, throwing Dickens aside, he banished from his thoughts the mock modesty of Alybion, and dreamed of licentious practices and salacious little sins condemned by the church. At another time, he sought distraction from his tortured spirit in a bodega wine shop within the arcades of the Rue de Rivoli, where, over a glass of sherry, the nerve-soothing stories, the gentle lividities of Dickens were scattered, and their place was taken by the harsh repulsives, the cruel irritants of Edgar Allan Poe, the chill nightmare of the cast of Amontillado, That haunting tale of the man walled up in an underground chamber seized upon his fancy until even the kindly and commonplace faces of the English and American customers who filled the hall seemed to reflect uncontrollable and abominable cravings, odious and instinctive plans of wickedness. But perchance de Estiennes was not in search of health, for Huysmans gives out that he was genuinely interested only in sickly books, those whose health was undermined and exasperated by fever. So, as in the pharmacopoeia of doctors, which will cure one may kill another. But if any further proof of these medicinal qualities be demanded, let it be taken from the records of some inverse activities. For it has been advocated by many authorities, doctors of literature among them, that phylacteries have opposing or negative characters, as poisons are efficacious in some distempers, deadly in others. This danger is noted by Montaigne when acquiring sciences. We cannot suddenly put them into any other vessel than our mind, he says. We swallow them in buying them, and go from the market either already affected or amended. There are some which, instead of nourishing, do but hinder and surcharge us, and other some which, under cover of curing, empoison us. Bulwer Lytton was physically distressed by Buckle's History of Civilization. Carlyle's French Revolution, when a new book was much in fashion, so affected Edward Fitzgerald as to impede his recovery from influenza. Lockhart's Scott made Stevenson ill, and Samuel Butler reports a still more serious case of a man who lined his hat box with some sheets of Benbow's poetry, which so strangely affected his hat that the first time he wore it afterwards he felt a singing in his head, which within 2 days turned into a vertigo. Well may Le Gallienne warn us of the risks of prescribing the wrong author in a dangerous case. Half-hourly doses of Keats and Shelley in an attack of gout might so accelerate the action of the heart as to induce apoplexy. But he is careful to note that patients crave for what is bad for them. Consumptives, for instance, yearn for Maeterlinck when they obviously need Fielding, Dickens, and Balzac. So he warns book doctors who have a craze for Meredith, Pater, or Henry James against those potions when the patient should be given doses of Marie Corley. Many authorities find religious treaties to be sure remedy in several distempers. The physician should by no means overlook the somewhat curious efficacy of sermons. But I have heard some complain of sermons and other books of the kind, good otherwise, because they are too serious, too much dejecting men, aggravating offences. Great care and choice, much discretion are required on their application. I need do no more than mention the faith of men and the healing powers of the Holy Scriptures. If comfort may be got from philosophy, says Burton, what shall be had from divinity? What shall Austin, Cyprian, Gregory, Bernard's divine meditations afford us? Nay, what shall the Scripture itself, which is like an apothecary's shop, wherein are all remedies for all infirmities of mind, purgatives, cordials, alternatives, corroboratives, lenitives, etc. Every disease, saith Austin, hath a peculiar medicine in the Scripture, which is supported by Donne, who advises that the whole book of Psalms is olum effusion, an ointment poured out upon all sorts of sores, a cerecloth that supples all bruises, a balm that searches all wounds, which Amiel also supports when he confesses in his journal for July 17th, 1859, that he had just read 7 chapters of the Gospel and nothing calms him so much. Le Gallienne reminds us that a text suspended round the neck has seemed more than equal of a bottle of medicine, and he would not consider it fantastic to ascribe the vigorous health of our forefathers to their constant reading of the Bible. Yet even here the remedy is not always effective. When Coleridge was very ill, Scott's novels were almost the only books he could take. I cannot at times read the Bible, he confessed. My mind reflects on it, but I cannot bear the open page. Notwithstanding all that might be advanced to these effects, both pro and con, there are many records of cures in times present, which I cannot ignore, although they are none of them in my experience, but borrowed from printed testimonies, and for defense I must refer to the consciences of those who take them from. How many modern books of a religious kind have this power of healing I cannot tell, but by common report the most efficacious of them is that of Science and Health by Mrs. Baker Eddy, and to this only I shall refer. In the appendix of that work it is claimed in precise words that thousands of people have been reformed and healed through the perusal or study of this book, and 85 testimonies are given from those who have benefited by this medicine. The maladies cured comprise the chief cause of human suffering: consumption, rheumatism, cancer, epilepsy, cataract, neurasthenia, I'm not sure what that is, neurasthenia, deafness, Bright's disease, etc. Some hereditary, others acquired. All the particular circumstances are set out, and in many instances cures are alleged to have been made by a simple yet devout reading of a borrowed copy of the book. I will say no more, but will let this epitome suffice, having broached it in keeping with my purpose, for I commonly make use of that which is rare and memorable, and every man may add his example or explanation. For my part, I neither deny nor affirm. I am interested in everything, surprised at nothing, and I am as ready as most men to snatch at some more accurate remedy than those chemical nostrums which are the broken reed of medicine. And I firmly believe, with Oliver Wendell Holmes, himself a medical man, that if the whole materia medica could be sunk in the bottom of the sea, it would be all the better for mankind and all the worse for the fishes, of which, because many observers have written whole books, I will say nothing. It is clear, then, that since no physical condition is static or indeed similar to any other, no specific can be universal. Le Gallienne is wise in this respect, and he even contests the traditional belief in laughter as a universal specific, giving as an example that of Mark Twain, who must be prescribed with care in cases of bronchitis and other pulmonary diseases, because laughter is apt to provoke dangerous fits of coughing. But further data are unnecessary, a wrongly prescribed book or an overdose of literature being as dangerous as any other physic wrongly administered. And I wonder what a 20th or a 19th or 20th century writer would prescribe for the dental procedure I'm to have in just a few weeks' time. Preferably not anything that's going to make me laugh, because I'm going to need to keep, I think, my mouth very still. And laughter is not going to be a good tonic. Perhaps something serious, perhaps some essays that can soothe the mind, but not cause laughter or a physical reaction. But anyway, we're on page 297 today. The next section here is range of their medicinal properties, which is a shorter one. And after that, we will be moving on to a diversity of cures. But we'll stop it here for today.